Good morning, everyone. And welcome to Unity of Phoenix. Welcome to our Easter morning service. Welcome. My name is Richard Mirage. I'm the lead minister here, and it's great to see you all. How many people here for the very first time? Anybody here for Unity the first time? All right. Thanks. Let's hear for all the people who came for the first time. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, so today we had 4 services, and the first one was at 6 a.m. this morning. And I had a goal that 500 people, 580 people showed up this morning. We were bringing chairs. Isn't that fabulous? Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. All right, so welcome. Great to see you all.
Good morning. My name is Jimmy Scott, and I'm pastoral care minister here at Unity of Phoenix. My pleasure to wish you a happy Easter today, and we're going to do our best to make sure it's a fantabulous happy Easter.
Fantabulous. I love that, man.
I'm a wordsmith. You have to recreate words in your own image.
A creative vocabulary. So this guy goes to the Holy Land on vacation with his wife and his mother-in-law. And so unfortunately his mother-in-law passes away on this vacation, and he goes to the undertaker, and the undertaker says, so we can ship your mom back for a funeral back in your home country, but it'll cost you $5,000. Or we could do it right here for $150. Without hesitation, the guy says, we'll do it for $5,000. We'll send her back. And the undertaker says, are you sure? That's pretty expensive. That's a lot of money. And so, we do a really nice service here. And the guy said, yeah, I'm sure you do a nice service, and the money's kind of tight. That is a lot of money. But I heard 2,000 years ago they buried a guy here, and then 3 days later he came back to life. And I don't want to take a chance. Yeah, what a great way to start. Insulting mother-in-laws right off the bat on Easter Sunday. So if that joke didn't bring a smile to your face, I know Easter will bring a smile to your face. It is such an uplifting, glorious time. It's a time of renewal and rebirth, new life and new possibilities. So right now, I'd like you to take a deep breath.
So this morning, as preparation for the meditation, we're going to share a scriptural passage from the Gospel of John. This is found in the 20th chapter, verses 11 through 17. Some very interesting passages in here. Mary stood weeping outside the tomb. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb, and she saw 2 angels in white sitting beside where the body of Jesus had been lying, one at the head and the other at the foot. They said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said, "They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." After she said this, she turned around and she saw Jesus standing there, but she did not recognize him. And then Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for?" And thinking that he was the gardener, she replied, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." And Jesus said to her, "Mary?" And then she turned and said to him, "Teacher?" And then Jesus spoke again and said to her, "Do not hold on to me, because I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brothers and tell them that I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and to your God." And Mary Magdalene then went and told the disciples, "I have seen the Lord," and she told them the things that he had spoken to her. So I want to invite you to get into a quiet space, to quiet your mind, to get comfortable in your seat, and then Rusty will lead us in our meditational song. So if you have your cell phones with you, I want to encourage you to either place them on silence or vibrate as we take a few moments to turn inwardly.
And in this very room, there's quite enough love for all the world. And in this very room, there's quite enough joy for all the world. and there's quite enough hope and quite enough power to chase away any gloom. For Spirit, sweet Spirit, is in this very room.
So as we begin this time together, I encourage you to get comfortable in your seat. Take a deep, relaxing breath and just sort of mentally and emotionally let go of the external world. Always mindful that there is a sweet, sweet spirit that transcends all of the challenges and all the difficulties that we have in life. And sometimes that's difficult to access that spirit or that power when we are emotionally caught up in external stuff. But right here and right now in this very room, we have the opportunity to release and to let go of all the external stuff in our lives, and also all the internal stuff, the noise that takes place in our own minds when we're dealing with difficult and challenging things. There's a lot of deep symbology embedded in the resurrection story. But one of the most important that we can all be cognizant of is that we have this capacity in us to do what is ours to do and to be what is ours to be. So again, I encourage you to take a deep, relaxing breath. And just to get quiet and to become still. And enter into the deep capacity of your own being. Allow your personal power to come forth and to heal you and to bless you and to change you at depth. Be still and to know the truth of your being. as we lift up our thoughts in prayer this morning, may we also lift up our consciousness and our awareness of the presence and power of God in us and in all people everywhere. And in so doing, may we call forth a blessing of health and well-being and prosperity, life and love and laughter and joyfulness for all people, not just for ourselves, because we are united in spirit. And we are particularly mindful of all the people who've called into this ministry, requesting prayer, support. We hold them in this inner spiritual vision as well. And we hold them with the thought that all is well and that all will always be well. And we release it and let it go with faith and gratitude. Gratitude in the name and through the nature of the living Christ. And so it is. And amen.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever.
Good morning again, everyone. And a special shout out to everybody who watches us online. Thanks for joining us. So these three guys die and go to heaven at the pearly gates. And St. Peter says to each of them, when you're in your casket, what would you have liked to have heard your friends and family say about you? The first guy thinks about it. He said, well, I would have liked them to have said that I was a great doctor and a good man, and I did a lot of good. And then the second guy says, well, I would like to have heard that I was a good husband, and I was a good teacher, and that I was kind to everyone. And then the third guy, he said, when I was in the casket, I would have really loved to hear someone say, look, he's moving. He's moving. Woo. So could you imagine being at a funeral and the person in the casket coming to life? I mean, could you imagine witnessing someone rising from the dead? I want you to take you back to that Easter Sunday morning at the tomb. Could you imagine what it was like for Mary and the disciples to see and know that their teacher, their colleague, their friend, who they saw crucified and killed, had risen and come back to life? Could you imagine how amazing and unbelievable that would have been? Could you imagine how miraculous and how joyful an experience it would have been to witness the resurrection? You know, Easter is a celebration of Jesus Christ. I mean, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. It's a celebration of that resurrection. And a resurrection really is rising from the dead. The word resurrection means to be restored to life. And many of us think that the only resurrection took place on Easter Sunday morning. But the truth is, that is not the only time someone rose from the dead in the Bible. Anybody have any idea how many people rose from the dead in the Bible? It was 8. 8. 2 in the Old Testament, Elijah and Elisha rose some folks from the dead. Jesus 3 plus himself, and then 1 by Peter, and later 1 by Paul. 8. So it wasn't just one resurrection, there were 8. And in fact, it wasn't even just those 8 that were a demonstration of the resurrecting principle and the power of resurrection. If you look at the Old Testament and all through Jesus' teachings, that example of that resurrecting power, the regenerative, restoring power of God, was demonstrated in a variety of ways. In the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 25 says, "And I will restore to you all the years that the locusts have eaten." I will restore to you all the years the locusts have eaten. That is a statement about the power of the resurrection. If you look at Jesus' teachings and his life, so many areas were demonstrating that principle of the resurrection. The raising of Lazarus, from the dead, of course, but also, you remember the story of the hemorrhaging woman who was bleeding for 12 years? She touched the hem of his garment. That was a resurrecting story. Of her being resurrected from 12 years of bleeding and suffering and being debilitated. The story of the prodigal son is a resurrection story. He was lost, and then it said it came to himself. And then he went back to his father. That was a resurrecting story of his life. The story of the loaves and fishes was a resurrecting story. Resurrecting from lack and limitation into abundance. Remember the story of Paul's conversion on the road to Damascus? Remember he was angry and hateful, persecuting Christians. And then he was struck blind, and 3 days later, he began to preach the gospel. Jesus showed over and over again that this resurrecting principle, was alive. This resurrecting principle was being demonstrated, and his resurrection was actually the full and ultimate example of that spirit, that invincible spirit of God, that power through which all things are made possible, that spirit through which things are changed and transformed and made greater. And the fact is, Jesus just didn't overcome the greatest fear of human beings, of death. He actually overcame the 5 most challenging and painful and difficult of all human experiences. He overcame hatred. He overcame betrayal. He overcame fear. He overcame torture. And he overcame death. And he overcame those things, showing that the same resurrecting principle that resurrected him and Lazarus and the woman that was hemorrhaging and all the other people is the very same resurrecting power that can lift us through and resurrect whatever is dying in our own lives. And sometimes we think, how can our lives be resurrected? You don't have to go to the grave to experience the power of the resurrection. We all of us have times in our life where it seems like something has died. That something is hopeless, that something will never get better. Anybody ever have a situation where you ever got so hurt and so devastated you didn't think you'd ever get over it? Anybody ever have something like that? Anybody ever, have a situation in your life, maybe a financial situation or a relationship or something in your family that you never thought would get better and you just felt absolutely hopeless that things would improve? Anybody have one of those? See, sometimes we feel a little battered by life, a little beat up. Sometimes things don't go well for a long time, and sometimes we just allow our dreams to die. We allow our joy to die and our hope to die. We allow our passion and our creativity to die. We allow our sense of wonder and our ability to smile and laugh, our ability to be happy for other people. It's when we lose that sense of wonder, when we lose that childlike nature, when we choose our ability to be happy and see the positive and to be hopeful, that's when our lives need a resurrection. Because sometimes we are living in tombs of fear, tombs of hopelessness. Sometimes we're in jobs, in relationships, and in lives that feel empty, that feel unfulfilled. Anybody ever read Og Mandino's book, The Greatest Miracle in the World? Anybody ever read that? That story, he says that people might be breathing and walking around, but we aren't really living. He calls it the living dead. That sometimes we walk around feeling empty and hopeless and lifeless. You know, and the example of the resurrection isn't a one-year anniversary thing that we commemorate and celebrate and observe. It is an invitation for each of us to look at that resurrecting principle and see how we can use it in our own lives, to awaken parts of us that feel dead, that feel lifeless, that feel dormant, that feel empty, that feel unfulfilled. So the greatest way I think we could pay homage to the celebration of the resurrection of Jesus is to look at that principle of resurrection and see how we can use it to reawaken areas and bring life and restore life to our life right here and now. So what do we need to do to have a personal experience of Easter and a personal experience of the power of resurrection? Well, the first thing is to believe. You know, long before Holy Week, long before Easter Sunday, Jesus believed that he was resurrected. He believed that he would rise from the dead. It was foretold, and he believed. Nobody else believed, but he believed. And the experience of Easter begins by believing. You know, you've ever heard it says that you got to conceive and believe so you can achieve? The beginning of all achievement is believing. Thomas Edison believed that he could transform the world through electricity. Walt Disney believed that he could revolutionize animation and create a fantasy land. You know, John F. Kennedy believed we could put a man on the moon. How many people believe that Jesus was resurrected from the dead? How many people believe that? See, we find it easy to believe that Jesus resurrected from the dead, and yet we sometimes struggle to believe that we can overcome we cannot overcome what we're facing right now in life. Isn't it amazing we could believe something that amazing, and yet we can't believe for ourselves that we can get over our past, we can't get over our mistakes, we can't get over our hurts and disappointments. Sometimes we have a hard time believing that we could rise to greatness. We have a hard time believing that our lives could be filled with love and success and fulfillment. It's amazing how easily we can believe in the resurrection and great things for other people, but we struggle to have that same belief that that same God and that same Spirit could heal and transform our own lives to help us overcome whatever it is that we're dealing with. And yet over and over the Bible tells us all things are possible to those who believe. Whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. The second step in AA's 12 step is, I have come to believe that a power greater than myself can restore my life to sanity. And ask you, do you believe there is a power greater than yourself that can restore your life? Do you believe there's a power greater than yourself that has a plan for you and has a possibility for your life to be greater than it currently is? Do you believe? Jesus said believing was so powerful, he said, he who believes in me shall do the works that I do and even greater things than these. Can you believe that? He said, and what he's saying is, if you believe in the Spirit of God in you, the way I believe in the Spirit of God in me, through that Spirit, you shall do the things that I've done and even greater. But you've got to believe. Are you willing to open your heart and to believe whatever it is you're going through can be healed and transformed, and God has a greater possibility for your life? How many people ever saw Starlight Express? Anybody ever see that? Andrew Lloyd Webber? All right, 3 people, good. It was a fabulous production, Andrew Lloyd Webber. And so the general story is, it is like a Cinderella story for trains, for toy trains. And the actors are on roller skates, and it really comes in, this idea in the mind of a boy. And it's a Cinderella story. And the character, the underdog train, you know, the train that couldn't, Rusty, they're having this big race to see who's the fastest engine. He's feeling hopeless. He's feeling like he can't do this. And then he prays to the Starlight Express, you know, the fairy godmother, the spirit god of the trains. And then the spirit comes to Rusty alone and says, Rusty, I'm in you. I've always been in you. I've always been within you. Just believe in yourself, and the seas will part before you. And Rusty took the time to cultivate his belief in himself, his belief that the Starlight Express, that light, was in him, to believe that greater things were possible. Even if no one else believed, he cultivated that belief, and he ended up winning and being the fast engine. So this invites all of us, in whatever area in your life where you feel like you're struggling, in whatever area of your life where you feel like you need some healing, whatever area of your life that isn't working and you'd like to be transformed, are you willing to open a space and believe that God loves you? To believe that God loves you. To believe that there's a spirit in you who only desires the best and has a plan. But if you just open your heart to believe that you are here to do greater things, and to believe that this power in you will lead you and give you the answers. And you don't need to figure out how, you just need to open a space to believe. I love that Maya Angelou thing, God loves me. Can you believe that God loves me? That God has a plan for your life. And opening a space to believe opens us to greater possibilities. You know, when we get scared, we shrink. We get scared and close off. But believing is about, everybody take a deep breath. Expanding your heart, expanding your faith to believe that with God all things are possible. That when you believe that you are loved and God is, that it's possible, you open your life to greater blessings, greater transformations, and greater experiences. Second thing that Jesus believed and realized about the resurrection is that for there to be a resurrection, there had to be a crucifixion. And the principle behind that is what it's saying is, for you to be born to something new, you got to die to the old. And this is a powerful, powerful principle. It's a universal principle. Just how like the leaves have to fall off the tree and die to the old in the fall and be born anew for new leaves in the spring, that principle always happens. You know, you got to prune away the dead branches on a tree so that new roses can grow. You know, everybody wants to be the butterfly, but nobody realizes that the caterpillar had to die to its old self for the butterfly to be born. There is a universal principle that if you want your life to go from one level to another, you have to die to the old beliefs and the old ideas and the old ways of being, the old ways of seeing yourself to be born to a higher level of consciousness. The Bible says it in many ways. Remember when they talk about new wine in old wineskin? Doesn't work. You got to have new wineskin. You got to let go of the old to be born to the new. You know, Jesus said everything old has passed away, everything has become new. So the idea of the crucifixion is about dying to the old things that no longer serve us, to the old things that aren't useful for us. And I'll tell you, sometimes dying to those is painful because sometimes we don't like to let go, even of things that aren't even for our best. Let me give you some simple examples. Anybody got some clothes that don't fit you anymore, or you got an old shirt and you just won't give it away? It can't fit you. It's old. You know, it might be old, and you won't let it go. Anybody can relate to that? You know, we have a hard time letting go of stuff. Sometimes even when we know it's not good for us, like, right, you ever have a hard time letting go of certain foods you know you shouldn't eat that aren't good for you? Like for the last couple of weeks, I have been, my birthday was 14 days ago, and I've had dessert 12 days out of the 14. Now, the amazing thing is when I eat sugar, the next day I don't feel good. But yet, you know, the warm chocolate chip cookies, the red velvet cake, the creme brulee, you know, it calls to me. It calls to me every night. I mean, it's like a crucifixion. And part of me is dying. I can't just watch it. I got to dive in. And I'm doing things and I won't let go of something I know that's not good for me. We have a hard time letting go. It can feel painful of letting go of things that we know aren't good for us because it's familiar. And while I'm joking about the food stuff and the clothes, you know what's even harder that really feels like a crucifixion? It's harder to let go? It's to let go of ideas that we've had about ourselves. And to let go of the idea that I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, is something that can keep us down. It's an idea we need to die to so we can be born to greater possibilities. As we have to let go of the idea that it's bad for me to be getting old. I need to keep, you know, dressing as young and looking as young as I can. There's something wrong about being divorced. There's something bad and shameful about being single. You know, we have all these ideas. We have beliefs that life is unfair, and hold on. These ideas need to die. You know, there are all kinds of limiting ideas. You can't trust people. We have all kinds of limiting ideas that are, you know, that are holding us back. I won't be successful unless I earn this amount of money. You know, I won't be beautiful or unless I lose so much weight. We have all these limiting ideas that we need to die to them to be born to a higher consciousness and a higher level of believing and experiencing. Sometimes, we've had a certain MO our lives, to be charming to get our way or to be really aggressive and forceful. And at some point, that game doesn't work anymore. And we have to let go of those old ways of being to rise to new levels of living and being and achieving and moving forward in our lives. Another aspect of this crucifixion experience of letting go and dying to the old is sometimes there are traumas from our past and hurts and feelings that we've denied and stuffed away and never allowed ourselves to feel. And it can feel like a crucifixion experience to go in to those areas where you didn't deal with some abuse or grief or traumas and actually feel it to be able to release it. And sometimes we'd rather run and hide and stuff it, rather than releasing it and transforming and dying to it. And Jesus knew how hard it is, this whole crucifixion and the letting go and dying to the old. Remember the night before? He said, Father, if you can, take this cup from me. He's saying this is hard, to die to the old and let go and to go through this painful process. And it isn't an easy thing, but it's a necessary thing. Let me give you another example. Anybody ever renovate a bathroom or a kitchen? You ever do that? That sometimes you got to let go of the old, and sometimes when you let it go and break down the old, sometimes it gets messy. Sometimes it's painful because you're destroying the old and the new hasn't come yet, and you're wondering, will it ever get better? But that's a part of the process, and that's where your belief and trust comes, is you got to hang in there while you're letting go. I find it interesting, a tomb, Jesus was in the tomb. A tomb is where you store the dead. But it's interesting, it was in the tomb, in those 3 days, it was in the tomb where the miracle happened. The resurrection took place in a tomb. I want you to get what a powerful message that is. 2 things about the tomb. Number 1, a tomb is not just where you store the dead, but the tomb represents the ultimate dying to the old and surrendering your life to God. And that in those 3 days, in the very most vulnerable place, something happened in the stillness. Something miraculous that brought a rebirth in a life happened. Only God knows what happened, but we know something miraculous happened. That when you ultimately surrender to the area of life you're most afraid of, the one you want to run and hide from, it is in that time of surrender that in the stillness that a rebirth takes place. And suddenly the womb, the tomb that stored the dead becomes a womb that gives birth to something greater. And that message for all of us is saying, whatever in your life that you are afraid of, whatever the most painful is, that tomb that you're being trapped in, go into there, feel it, surrender it to God, and something miraculous will rise in you. Something amazing will be awakened in you to lift your life to even greater possibilities, greater blessings. So I ask you, what area of your life, and what are you needing to die to let go? Michael Beckwith says that we can have anything in life. We can have anything in life, but we cannot have it until we become it in consciousness first. You can have anything, but you've got to develop the consciousness. And to develop a consciousness of something greater, we have to ask ourselves the question, what do I need to let go? What am I holding on to? What belief do I need to die to open a space to hold a higher consciousness of a more fulfilling life? You got to believe. You got to die to the old. And then the final thing is you got to rise and come forth. That's what Jesus said to Lazarus. He said, rise and come forth. And that is a message for us that the Christ in us is saying to you, let the magnificence in you rise and come forth. Stop playing small. Stop being scared. Stop running and hiding from the life you know you're called to live, and rise and come forth. Mark Twain said, the greatest regrets we have in life aren't the things that we do, it's the things that we did not do. So what in your life do you know it's time for you to do that you've been scared, that it's time for you to rise and come forth and step into it and do it? And it doesn't matter if you fail. All that matters is that you do it and try it, and if you do fail, then you rise again. Because Spirit is calling you to rise and come forth. Bring the very best that you have to life. It is something every single one of us is called to do. If I were to really, instead of the word resurrection, you know what I would replace it with? It's about liberation. That the resurrection is liberating ourselves from all the human things that hold us back and deny us and stop us from living as freely and fully as we are all capable of living. That are you ready to be fully liberated from the fears and the limiting thoughts and beliefs and to allow yourself to rise and come forth to the highest level of person that you are here to be, the highest example that you are here to express? You know, every one of us has areas in our lives that we have allowed to die, that are dormant. You know, every one of us, I guarantee, knows that how much, as much life as we have lived, how many people know that you could live more fuller and love more fuller than you're doing now? Every one of us knows this. And the greatest way for us to celebrate Easter is not just to pay homage to Jesus' resurrection, but to utilize that principle of resurrection in our own lives right here and now, to believe that whatever we're going through, that all things are possible and there's a God who loves us. To die and look at the old things we need to let go and just arise and come forth. And that is the Easter message, and that is how we have a personal experience of the resurrection. Happy Easter, everybody. God bless you. You know, next week I'm starting my annual series, The Songs of Life. You know, you ever got the song that just touches you, inspires you, and speaks to you? You know, I've been doing this for about 13 or 14 years now, and I've done Beatles songs, Eagles songs, all kinds of songs, you know, Van Morrison songs. So next week, you remember Jim Croce? Yeah, so I'm going to do I've Got a Name next week, and then I got Bonnie Raitt's Love in the Nick of Time, and then Kelly Clarkson's got one called Breakaway. And then there's a song called The Climb by Miley Cyrus. I know, I'm doing it, Miley Cyrus. In church, for goodness sake. It'll be very spiritual, I promise you. It'll be incredible. But the Songs of Life series begin next week. It'll be a powerful and wonderful experience. So join us for that. It's always a fun series. So thanks so much for being here, everybody. You guys are absolutely fabulous. Oh, lilies. Is some of the lilies up here? If you'd like, you can come and take, and you can be Betty, and she'll give you so you can take home and enjoy it in your home. So thanks so much for being here, everybody. Have a great rest of your Easter. And remember, this is a powerful message. We celebrate the resurrection. The best way to do it is to make it a personal resurrection experience. And whatever area of your life that you feel, has died, create a space to believe that it's possible to be healed, that great things can happen. Die to the old ways of believing, and let yourself rise and come forth to live the amazing life and be the amazing person you are here to be. Let's all rise now, guys, as we close our service with our song of peace.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
And now prayer protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. God bless you, everybody. Great day and a wonderful week. Happy Easter.